So you want to know about sexual activities. When you go through puberty, your body starts to release hormones. We've talked a lot about that now. And another layer to hormones, just moving all around your body, they make your brain want to feel close to someone. I think that's the best way to describe it. You start longing for closeness. And you start wondering what it's like to touch people that you're attracted to. You might want to be held and touched. This is a time also when you start to realize if you touch your penis or you touch your vagina, you might notice that that feels good. And this is the kind of exciting and tricky part about sexuality, is that humans like it. We were actually made to want to have sex, to want to feel closeness to someone, that sex feels good when we do it because our bodies need us to reproduce. Like, our survival as a species needs us to make babies. So it's got to feel good, or why would we ever do it? It's kind of a strange thing if you really think about it. So you start longing for that closeness, and you're going to hear words like arousal, which means you feel kind of turned on, like you want to touch somebody, you want them to touch you. You're going to hear words like you're feeling horny or thirsty. These are kind of slang words to describe like you want that physical closeness with someone. And probably you're wanting that because you've realized that you can have like an orgasm. And an orgasm is the pleasurable feeling that comes with having intercourse. But what a lot of people have figured out is you don't have to have sexual intercourse to have an orgasm. You can have an orgasm a lot of different ways, and that's what sexual activity is going to talk about. So one of the ways that people feel closeness with someone they're attracted to, that they want to be with, that they want to date, is by kissing, which I'm sure you know what kissing is. And kissing is not an exclusively romantic or sexual act, but it's something that a lot of people reserve for someone that they want to date or they want to feel attracted to. So kissing is when you just, press your lips together. French kissing is when you're kissing someone, you're pressing your lips together, you're rubbing your lips together, but you also are touching tongues. And this quickly can lead into making out. And making out is when you're kissing and French kissing and touching each other over the clothes usually. And when you're touching over the clothes, there's this like old school word that is called petting. And I don't really like this word, but you're petting, which means you're touching each other's private areas, but it's probably over the clothes. And when you touch each other's private parts, your brain is actually releasing a little bit of oxytocin. And oxytocin is an attachment hormone. So it's making you feel attached to this person. It's making you feel close to them. And girls, you actually release more of it than a boy does, especially if someone is touching your breasts or boobs. That you release a little bit more oxytocin, which is the attachment hormone. So you're touching, you're petting. There's another thing that can happen, which in our slang culture we call it a hand job. So that's when someone could use the word masturbation. When you touch yourself and give yourself an orgasm, that like rubbing or touching your penis or rubbing and touching your vulva, which we've talked about before is all your private parts in between your legs, that can give you an orgasm, which would be called masturbation. But masturbation is also something you can do to someone else. So if you are rubbing or touching someone else's penis till they have an erection and they ejaculate semen, that's called an orgasm. That's called masturbating. The same thing can happen for girls if you're rubbing and touching their vagina, which ultimately you're touching their clitoris, which is a bundle of nerves with like 1,000 nerve endings at the base of the pelvis. So that can give a girl an orgasm, which is that rush of a pleasurable feeling. And when you do that with your hands, it's also masturbation, but it's also, the slang word is like fingering. So those are hand jobs. That's probably the word you would hear out in the real world. So that's another way that people feel closeness, and that's considered a sexual activity. Another thing that people do is it's kind of umbrellaed as oral sex. And oral sex is when you give someone an orgasm using your mouth. So if you were to have oral sex, which is also called fellatio, that's the fancy word, that's giving a guy what you would call a blowjob. Or the really slang word is like suck their dick. That's another term. And you'll hear people use that as an insult. It's like not a nice thing to say, but now you know what it means. So that's oral sex, and that's giving a man an orgasm using your mouth. Oral sex can also be done to a woman, and it's called, the fancy term is cunnilingus. No, I don't think anyone uses these things, but that's what they're called. And cunnilingus is like going down on a girl or eating a girl out, like that. Those are different words for using your mouth to give a girl an orgasm. So that's oral sex. Another kind of sexual activity is called anal sex, and you're probably already guessing what this means. Anal, anus, that is your butt. So we're talking about like giving someone pleasure by penetrating their butthole. That's the anus. That's called anal sex. These are all different ways that humans sometimes engage in physical closeness and activity with one another. And all of them do make you feel close. A lot of them, anytime you have an orgasm, you're releasing dopamine, which is a chemical that makes you feel really happy. And that's something that is wonderful for our bodies, but also can feel addictive. So it's important to be really intentional when and where and who you engage in these activities with, because they do come with risks. And I'll talk more about what the risks are in another video, but for now I just want to define what all these sexual activities are. So these are all the ways you can feel closeness with someone, and I hope that that gives you a better idea as to what all of these things are, because you're going to hear them. The main thing to remember about these sexual activities is that none of these things will get a girl pregnant. All of these things are typically called hookups. So anything that's not kissing, anything that's oral sex, anal sex, hand jobs, those that's hooking up. That's what that is. And a lot of people prefer those ways of feeling closeness with someone because it doesn't necessarily risk a pregnancy. You probably won't get pregnant doing one of these things. And as you grow and as you enter into relationships and you think about wanting to engage in some of these activities or not, I want you to remember that you never have to do any of this stuff if you don't want to. And if you don't want to do something like this, you should not do it. And if someone's trying to make you do it, that's not okay. Like, that's stepping into something we're going to talk about in risky behaviors that's actually a crime. So having consent is a really important part of engaging in sexual activities with another person. You both need to say, yes, I want to do this. And that's how to have a healthy interaction where everyone's on board. As you explore sexual activities and what feels comfortable for you, and as you enter into relationships with other people, I think it's really important to have these conversations with your parents or your caregivers about their expectations around sexual activity. What do they think is an appropriate sexual activity on a date? Or how old should you be when you explore some of these things? It would be really valuable to find out how your parents feel about this and just engage them in this conversation so that they can tell you what they might be fearful of. You could ask them, what are you afraid of me trying any of these things? It's really important just to see where they're coming from. And remember, they have been there. They have had to encounter all of these things at some point, and they will have an opinion, and they will have hopes for you. So it's important to just hear them out and to start the conversation now.